The year is 1945. The Third Reich is collapsing like a house of cards in a hurricane. Berlin is in flames. The Red Army is already drinking vodka on the banks of the Oder. And somewhere in the snowy mountains of Lower Silesia, in the heart of the secret Project Riese, the most valuable train in human history is quietly disappearing under the ground. Train number 634. 300 tons. Not coal, not ammunition. 300 tons of pure gold in bars stamped with the Reichsbank eagle, crates of diamonds taken from half of Europe, and most importantly, the legendary Amber Room, dismantled panel by panel from the Catherine Palace in Pushkin and carefully packed into special wooden boxes lined with silk. Next to it, hundreds of paintings by Rembrandt, Raphael, Rubens, rolled into tubes and hidden in metal cylinders. And in the last sealed car, something that even the SS guards who escorted the train were forbidden to look at, folders with the stamp Wunderwaffe, Streng Geheim, secret blueprints of weapons that were supposed to turn the course of the war even in its last hours. Nobody knows the exact date when the train left Breslau, today's Wrocław. Witnesses who survived only say it was the end of January or the very beginning of February. Snow fell so thick that even the locomotive's headlight barely cut through the white wall. The train moved slowly. Only 2 cars could fit on the narrow gauge that led straight into the mountain, into the gigantic complex of tunnels dug by prisoners of the Grossrosen concentration camp. Project Riese, giant, was Hitler's last obsession. 7 underground complexes, dozens of kilometers of corridors blasted into granite, elevators that went hundreds of meters deep, halls the size of cathedrals. Officially, a new Führer headquarters. In reality, a safe for everything the Reich wanted to hide from the advancing Allies. The entrance chosen for the train was in the area of the Ksayas Castle, near the small village of Wałbrzych. Local Poles, forced to work on the construction, still remember how one February night the rails suddenly appeared where there had been none before, laid in a matter of hours by an SS engineering battalion. Then came the train, long, unusually heavy, guarded by soldiers of the elite 10th SS Division who shot anyone who came too close. Janusz, an 18-year-old miner from a nearby shaft, today he is 98 and lives in Wrocław, was one of the last people who saw the train alive. I was carrying timber to reinforce the tunnel when the locomotive whistled, he told me in 2022, his hands shaking as he held a cup of tea. The SS men drove us out with rifle butts, but I managed to look through a crack in the boards. The cars were ordinary freight wagons, but painted dark green and without any markings. On the platforms, soldiers with machine guns. And boxes, my God, so many boxes. Heavy ones. 4 men carried each one and still staggered. When they opened one car, near the entrance, the light from the lamps reflected off something yellow. I thought, it can't be gold, that only happens in fairy tales. But it was. According to Janusz and 3 other miners who confirmed his words independently, the train entered the tunnel, and then something strange happened. Instead of stopping at the dead end, as usual, the locomotive pushed forward, and the entire train literally sank into the mountain. The rails ended at a concrete platform, but that night the platform was gone. In its place, a new section of track leading further into a side gallery that no one had seen before. And then the explosion. Not a big one, just enough to bring down the ceiling and seal the entrance forever. The SS men came out, removed the temporary rails, blew up the portal, and within hours the snow covered all traces. By May, when the Red Army reached those places, there was nothing left. Only abandoned tunnels and rumors that somewhere under the Owl Mountains lies a treasure worth billions. For 70 years the story was considered a beautiful legend, something like El Dorado or the gold of the Incas. Treasure hunters came and went, dug a couple of wells, found nothing, and left. The Polish government officially stated many times, there is no train, there never was. And then came 2020. In the archives of the Institute of National Remembrance in Warsaw, historians accidentally stumbled upon a folder that had been classified since 1947. Inside, interrogation protocols of 2 German prisoners of war, former drivers of military trains. Both independently spoke about train number 634, gave the same number of cars, 22, the same weight, approximately 300 tons, and even the name of the officer who commanded the operation, SS Sturmbannführer Paul Clem. A year later, in 2021, American researchers from the University of Maryland, working under the Freedom of Information Act, received a batch of declassified CIA documents from the late 1940s. One of them, a report by Agent Robert Taylor, sent to Lower Silesia in the summer of 1945 on the personal order of General Eisenhower. Taylor wrote literally the following. Local population and former prisoners unanimously confirm the existence of a special train loaded with Reichsbank gold and cultural valuables, hidden in underground structures near Waldenburg, Walbschik. Entrance blown up. Exact location unknown. Search recommended before the area falls under full Soviet control. The report was marked top secret and lay untouched for 75 years. But the real bomb exploded in 2023. A joint Polish-German expedition using the most modern ground-penetrating radars, the same ones used to search for Tutankhamun's secret chambers, began scanning the infamous 66th kilometer of the Wrocław-Walbschik railway line. Everyone was waiting for another failure. On September 14, 2023 at 14:37, the operator saw something on the screen that made him freeze. At a depth of about 9 meters, a clear, perfectly straight anomaly almost 80 meters long. Metal. Huge mass. Exactly where, according to the miners' testimonies, the entrance to the side tunnel was supposed to be. The chief geophysicist, Dr. Anna Kowalska, said only one word into the microphone. Matko Boska. The whole of Poland heard it live. The research was broadcast on television. Social networks exploded. Hashtag Zloty Posieg immediately took first place in world trends. People who had never been interested in history before started Googling Project Riese. The local museum in Walbschik was stormed by tourists. Shares of companies producing metal detectors jumped 40% in a day. But that was only the beginning, because the anomaly found was just an appetizer. Real evidence that the train is there, and that it is much closer to the surface than anyone thought, appeared only in the spring of 2025, when a new expedition equipped with military-grade muon detectors, the same ones used to look inside the pyramids, discovered something that official science still refuses to recognize. An empty space. Huge. Right under the place where the train entered in 1945. A hall the size of a football field, lined with reinforced concrete, and inside, clear rectangular objects the size of railway cars. 22 of them. Exactly 22. And one more thing. In August 2025, an elderly man came to the editorial office of the largest Polish newspaper Rzeczpospolita. 97 years old, former forced laborer of the Grossrosen camp. He brought a yellowed piece of paper, a hand-drawn map. On it, tunnels, crossings, and a large red cross with the inscription in German. Hier ist der Zug. Nicht öffnen bis zum Sieg. Here is the train. Do not open until victory. The signature underneath, Paul Clem. The same SS Sturmbannführer who commanded the operation 80 years ago. The map is now in the hands of authorities. Authentic, confirmed by 3 independent examinations. And the place marked with the red cross coincides to the meter with the anomaly discovered by the radars. Friends, I've been investigating this story for the last 5 years. I personally spoke with the last living witnesses. I held in my hands the declassified CIA documents. I was present at the scanning site when the radars showed what no one had expected to see. And I can tell you one thing with certainty. The train is there. It never left the mountain. It is waiting. And very soon, maybe this year, maybe next, someone will finally open that tunnel. The only question is, who will be first? The Poles? The Germans? The Americans? Or maybe someone we don't even suspect yet? If you want to know what happened next, what the secret map actually showed, and why the Polish government suddenly stopped all excavation work in October 2025, despite having all the evidence in their hands, write next in the comments, and I will tell you the second part right now. Because what is hidden there deep underground is much more than just gold. Much more. And some people are ready to kill to keep this secret buried forever. See you in the second part. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps this truth finally come out, especially for those of us who remember what the war was really like. This story is for you. October 2025. Volbchik, 3 a.m. A cold autumn rain beats on the tin roof of a small bar at the foot of the Owl Mountains. Inside, only 4 people, 2 elderly men in worn jackets, a woman in her 70s with a cane, and me. The light is dim, the beer is warm, and the conversation is in whispers because what they're about to tell cannot be said out loud. The first man is Tadeusz Slovikovsky, 99 years old, the last living prisoner who laid the narrow-gauge rails for train number 634 with his own hands. The second is Maria K., a former telephone operator at Ksia's Castle, who in February 1945 connected the last call from SS Sturmbannführer Paul Klemm to Berlin. The woman with the cane is Barbara R., daughter of the German engineer who personally supervised the sealing of the tunnel. They had never met each other before this night. I brought them together. Tadeusz begins, voice trembling but eyes burning. We finished the rails at 2 a.m. on February 3rd. The snow was knee-deep. Klemm came himself, in a long leather coat, a pistol on his belt. He said only one sentence in Polish. Sybsij, bo WSCYSCY, tuz Genisi. Faster, or you all die here. Then the train arrived. I saw the locomotive number myself, 526107. It still haunts me in my dreams. 22 cars. The last 2 were different, armored, with small barred windows like for prisoners. But there were no prisoners, only boxes. When they pushed the last car inside, Klemm took a small notebook from his pocket, tore out a page, and gave it to my friend Kazimierz. Kazimierz hid it in his boot. 3 days later, Kazimierz was shot while trying to escape. The page disappeared. Until last month. He reaches into his jacket and places on the table a crumpled, yellowed sheet. On it, a hand-drawn diagram of the tunnel and the inscription in pencil. Eingang 67M, nach der Kove, Dan 12M links. Betten 4M, Danik Halle B 17. Der Zug Blight bis Befehl. Entrance 67M after the bend, then 12M left. Concrete 4M, then Hall B 17. The train stays until further orders. Maria takes the floor. I heard Klemm's last call. He phoned from the castle at 4:17 a.m. The line was terrible, but I remember every word. He reported to someone whose voice I did not recognize. Not Himmler, not Bormann, someone higher, calm, almost gentle. Klemm said, Der Zug ist in Sicherheit. Bernsteinzel intact. Die Plane sind im letzten Wagen. Versigal MIT Rotem walks UND dem Siegel de Führers persönlich. Befehl Ostfurt. The train is safe. Amber room intact. The plans are in the last car, sealed with red wax and the Führer's personal seal. Order executed. Then the voice on the other end answered, Gut. Die Zweite beginnt am Mars. Sie wissen, was zu tun ist. Good. Phase 2 begins in March. You know what to do. That was all. 2 days later, Klemm shot himself in the castle park. Officially, out of fear of the Soviets. But I think he was ordered to. Barbara opens her handbag and takes out a photograph. A young SS officer with a narrow face and cold eyes. Paul Klemm, 1944. My father, Obersturmführer Hansar, was Klemm's deputy. In 1956, when he was dying of cancer in Argentina, he told me everything. The train did not simply disappear. It was the first part of Operation Hohenstein, the plan to preserve the Reich after defeat. Gold was only cover. The real cargo was in the last armored car. 96 folders with complete documentation of weapons that even the Americans did not dream of in 1945. Not just V-2 or jet fighters. Father spoke of Die Glock, a device the size of a small bell, capable of creating a field in which combustion engines stop and aircraft fall from the sky. He saw tests near the tunnel in January 1945. 2 captured Soviet planes simply fell 30 kilometers from the test site. All pilots died instantly, blood pouring from their ears. Father said the blueprints of the Glock, test protocols, and samples of the red mercury used inside were loaded into the very last box, marked with 3 black dots. And next to it, A list. A list of 68 people who were to start everything anew when the time came. My father was number 47 on that list. Silence falls in the bar. Only the rain drums. I asked the question that has tormented me for 5 years. Why has no one opened the tunnel yet, if the place is known? Today Ausch laughs bitterly. Because those who know are dying, and those who rule are afraid. In 2024, the Ministry of Culture quietly issued permission for excavation. A German-Polish company was created, Berggold GmbH. Money came from very serious people. They started drilling in May 2025, and in July, everything stopped overnight. Officially, danger of collapse. But I know the real reason. He leans closer and lowers his voice to a whisper. One night, in June, the night shift drilled through the 4-meter concrete plug. They inserted an endoscopic camera, and they saw the train, perfectly preserved. Cars stand on rails as if they arrived yesterday. Even the paint has not peeled. On the first car, the Reichsbank Eagle, still gleaming. But that's not the most important thing. The camera reached the last armored car. The door was open a crack. Inside, boxes. One of them was broken, and from it spilled photographs. Hundreds of photographs. Modern ones. Color. From the 21st century. People in today's uniforms. Politicians we see on television every day. And in the corner, a man in an SS uniform, but alive, not old at all. The same face as on Barbara's photograph. Paul Clem, as if he hadn't aged a day since 1945. Maria crosses herself. The foreman who saw the recording had a heart attack the same night. The hard disk with the video disappeared from the sealed container. The drilling rig burned down due to faulty wiring. 2 Polish engineers who insisted on continuing the work died in a car accident on the way to Warsaw. Both brake failure. Berggold GmbH declared bankruptcy the next day. The permit was revoked. The tunnel was filled with concrete again, this time 6 meters thick. I take out my phone and show them a document I received 2 weeks ago, an internal memo of the Polish Internal Security Agency, ABW, dated September 2025. Marked Siltage. Subject. Object 67/B17. Immediate termination of all works ordered at the highest level. Reason. Presence of unknown physical phenomenon inside the hall. Strong electromagnetic field of non-terrestrial origin. Rapid oxidation of metal in contact with air. Anomalous behavior of electronic equipment. 2 members of the special unit hospitalized with symptoms similar to radiation sickness, despite the absence of radioactive sources. Recommendation. Permanent sealing and establishment of a restricted zone under the cover of military training ground. Discussion at the political level is undesirable. Barbara looks at me for a long time, then says quietly, "My father warned before he died. If they open the last car before the appointed time, the war will begin again. But it will not be the war you know. Friends, I don't know what is really waiting there, 80 years later under the mountain. Gold, the amber room, blueprints that can change the world, or something that should have stayed buried forever. One thing I know, for sure, in November 2025 something started moving again. Secret night works. Military trucks without numbers. People in civilian clothes who speak German with a Berlin accent and Polish with a Warsaw one. The restricted zone has been expanded to a radius of 5 kilometers. Local residents are being bought out for a new spa complex. The last witness, today Ausch, gave me a final gift before we said goodbye. A small metal token he found in 1945 next to the rails. On one side, the SS runes. On the other, today's date, 2025, and a symbol I saw only once before. 3 black dots arranged in a triangle. The same symbol that was on the box with the Glock blueprints. If you want me to tell you what happened in the first weeks of November 2025, when military sappers secretly blew up a new entrance at night, what the soldiers saw on the thermal imagers, and why since November 12th the entire area has been closed even to police, right next, right now. Because the third part is the most dangerous. I've already been warned twice to stop. But for you, for those who survived that war, who remember what silence before a storm is, I will tell it to the end. Right next. And hold on tight. This time we are descending into the tunnel together. November 12, 2025, 2:14 a.m. I am standing on the side of a forest road 3 kilometers from the official perimeter. The rain has stopped, but the fog is so thick that the headlights of the military vehicles look like blurred orange smears. My phone lost signal at 23:47. The last message that came through before it died. They've opened it. Run. Sender. Captain Wojciech Nowak, sapper of the 16th Engineer Battalion from Bolchow, the man I drank coffee with last summer. He hasn't answered since. I am recording this on a voice recorder in case I don't come back. This is for you. What happened in the last 2 weeks never reached a single newspaper. On the internet, there were only a handful of posts that vanished within minutes. But I pieced it together from people who were inside. On November 7th at 4 o'clock, military engineers working under the cover of a civilian company called Hydrogeologia Sudety began drilling a completely new, top-secret adit. Not where everyone had searched for years, but 180 meters farther north, exactly at the coordinates marked on Paul Klem's map brought by the 97-year-old former prisoner in August. The coordinates matched to the centimeter. By November 9th, they had cut through 42 meters of granite and reached the original 1945 concrete plug 4 meters thick. But this time the concrete was strange, dark gray, almost black with a metallic sheen. When they tried to cut it with a diamond blade, the sparks were red, as if from titanium. The blade temperature shot to 800 degrees Celsius in 5 seconds. The disc melted. On November 10th, they brought a plasma cutter from the Research Institute in Gliwice. At 23:42, they bored the first 15-centimeter hole. They inserted an endoscope with a thermal camera. What the operator saw is preserved on a 47-second video. I managed to obtain a copy from someone who risked everything. First, total darkness. Then the beam catches the rails. They gleam as if laid yesterday. On the rails stands a train. Exactly 22 cars. The locomotive is the same steamer, number 526107, clearly visible. But the terrifying part, there is no rust, no dust on the locomotive. It looks as if it rolled off the Borsig factory floor in 1943 this morning. The camera slowly moves along the train. The first 8 cars are ordinary covered wagons marked Reichsbank, Sondertransport. The door of one is slightly ajar. Inside, stacks of gold bars. Not tarnished. Bright yellow, freshly cast. Each stamped with the eagle and swastika in the year 1944. Next come 2 cars containing the amber room. The panels lie neatly labeled in chalk. Nordflügel, Südflügel, deck. The amber glows warm honey gold in the flashlight beam. Not a single crack. Then the last armored car. Its doors stand wide open. On the floor lies a shattered wooden crate. From it have spilled hundreds of photographs. Modern color prints on glossy Fujifilm Instax paper. The faces are from the 2020s. I recognize some of them. Some are currently in power. Some sit in the parliaments of 3 different countries. One man appears in every picture, young, in black SS uniform, wearing a present-day Apple Watch. Paul Klem's face, not a single wrinkle. And one more photo, taken inside the same car from the opposite angle. It shows the wall. On the wall, freshly painted in black. Willkommen im Jahr 2084. Phase 2 hat begonnen. PK. Welcome to the year 2084. Phase 2 has begun. PK. The video cuts off at 47 seconds because the operator screamed and collapsed. The camera caught blood running from his ears and nose. The same symptom as the 2 soldiers in September. After that, a GROM special unit entered in Level A hazmat suits. With them were 2 German specialists no one had officially invited. One of them, according to my sources, was Dr. Otto Weiss, a physicist from the Max Planck Institute who disappeared from public view in 2022. They were inside for 4 hours and 19 minutes. When they came out, 6 of the 9 could no longer speak. 2 remain in a coma in the military hospital in Wrocław. Official diagnosis: acute poisoning by unknown substance. But one who walked out on his own, Sergeant Marcin Gorski, managed to pass a USB stick to his wife through a nurse. On it, 12 seconds of audio. His voice, hoarse, barely audible. Time stopped there, or went backwards. The gold bars are still warm to the touch. The amber smells like fresh resin. And in the last car, there is a mirror. Huge. And in it I saw myself. 80 years older. And dead. With a bullet in the forehead. And the date on the wall. 12 November 2025. That's today. That was the last thing he said. That same night, he was found hanged in his hospital room. Official verdict, suicide. From 0:01 on November 13th, the entire area within a 12-kilometer radius was declared an emergency zone. Official reason, discovery of unexploded World War II ordnance. Even local police are denied access. 2 unmarked drones circle constantly above the mountain. Locals say that at night, you can hear a low humming like a giant transformer working underground. I know what comes next. They're not planning to remove anything. They are planning to destroy it. Those who understand what really lies in that car cannot allow it to see daylight, because it is no longer just gold or the amber room. It is proof that someone came back or never left. Today, Slovikovsky died in his sleep on November 18th. In the pocket of his pajamas, they found the same metal token with the 3 black dots. But on the reverse side, someone had freshly scratched a new date with a knife. December 11th, 2025. I am finishing this recording at 3:07 on November 26th, 2025. If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it. But you still can. Tell the story. Even if they erase us. Train number 634 never went anywhere. It was waiting, and it has waited long enough.